The courtyard of Winterfell lay silent beneath a fresh dusting of snow when the raven arrived. It fluttered down in slow circles, wings brushing against the chill air as though fighting an invisible current, before alighting upon the stone ledge just beyond the great hall. Dawn's smoky light had hardly pierced the eastern clouds, and for a fleeting moment the raven's black silhouette could have passed for a shard of the night that had broken off and forgotten to leave. A lone guardsman claimed the bird, his leather boots crunching softly upon the frost, and hurried the sealed message to Eddard Stark before the household had even woken. Ned sat alone in his solar taper flame, reflected in dark gray eyes, still heavy with sleep. He read the words once and did not move. He read them twice and felt the shape of his life tilt beneath him. By the third reading, there could be no doubt. He rose, the parchment trembling between his fingers. Aerys Targaryen, king of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, called him south to serve as hand of the king. The letter bore Rhaegar's neat, practiced script as well, appended with a brief line of apology. "My father demands it, and so I must obey." Ned set the parchment beside the fading candle. Aerys' request, command, was unexpected, absurd even, and yet it carried all the iron weight of the crown. Years earlier, Jon Arryn had refused to surrender his wards. Now the king sought one of those wards, grown and hardened by northern winters, to fill the most perilous seat in the realm. Why Ned and not Jon Arryn himself? Why risk summoning a Stark to the hotbed of intrigue after what had happened to Brandon and Lord Rickard only 2 years before? Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Catelyn entered, auburn hair braided down her shoulder, eyes alert though she had barely taken her first breath of the day. Ned closed the door gently. "A raven," he said, the 2 words heavy with unsaid burdens. He placed the message in her hands and watched her read. With each line, the warmth in her cheeks cooled. When she finished, her fingers closed around the parchment until it crinkled. "He murdered your father and brother," she whispered, voice sharp as broken glass. Ned felt the memory like a blade turned slow within him. Rickard's agonized roar beneath wildfire, Brandon's strangled gurgle. But honor was honor. His father had taught him that the realm endured only so long as the highborn kept their oaths. "If I refuse," he murmured, "the king will see insult. The North may pay the price." "Then let him," Catelyn said. Yet her eyes betrayed fear for their children. She glanced toward a shuttered window, as though beyond its frame Winterfell's walls could shield them from dragonfire. Ned set a hand upon her cheek, thumb brushing the corner of her eye. That would be the old way of things. Blood for blood, fire for frost. But Rickard Stark is gone, and Brandon too, and there remain only the living. Their conversation stretched long into the morning. They spoke of duty and vengeance, of the North's isolation and the fragile peace that clung to Westeros like rime to autumn grass. At last they agreed, though agreement tasted of iron. He would ride south before the year's turning, carry his children's laughter and memory, and the weight of Winterfell's hopes upon his shoulders. 5 days later, banners snapped above the inner bailey. Maester Luwine clasped Ned's forearm with trembling fingers, reminding him of the watchful eyes that lay upon the wall, the mouths to be fed when cold winds rose again, the vows that bound a Stark to the realm as surely as chains. Robb tried to stand tall and succeeded until Ned knelt before him and called him the man of the castle in his father's stead. Only then did the boy's facade crack, and father and son embraced beneath hoarfrost, glittering like ghosts in the dawn. Ned left Winterfell with a retinue of 30 men, Sir Roderick Castle at his side, along with 24 sworn swords, whose loyalty was as old as the roots of the heart tree. They rode south, beyond the neck, where the world warmed, and the air smelled of damp earth rather than snowmelt. The riverlands were fat with late autumn rain, fields dotted with pale-limbed sycamores and half-harvested grain. Villagers lined the roads to gape at the direwolf sigil on gray galloping cloaks, for few Starks ventured so far from the land of always winter. By the time Ned reached Harrenhal's blackened towers, he had not yet grown accustomed to the stairs. Here, the memory of the great tourney still clung to the stones, though ruin had gnawed them for 2 centuries. In the vast echo of its broken halls, Ned felt something stir, an omen perhaps of what awaited in King's Landing. Lord Walter Went received him, thin body, swallowed by a dark wool cloak, eyes flitting like mice. His Grace has ridden on, Went stammered, but commanded me to see you provisioned. He gestured to barrels of fresh bread, smoked pork, and small casks of Dornish red for the hand-in-waiting. Ned accepted quietly, refusing the bed offered. Heron the Black's legacy of pride undone by dragonfire haunted every step, and Ned would not rest beneath a roof that seemed to mourn its own folly. He pitched his tent beyond the cracked curtain wall where reeds bent in sighing circles. Beneath the stars he knelt, whispered the words of the old gods, and imagined the faces of those who had died screaming in this place. They reached King's Landing on the 18th day. Dawn had scarcely touched Vazenya's hill, yet the city seethed like an unholy hive. The small folk pressed close, eyes wide, some with dried tears along their cheeks from the latest rumor of the king's wrath. Fishwomen hawked crusted eels, children with naked feet darted through manure-clogged alleys, and beggars sprawled outside the dragon pit's shadow, as though supplicants to a stone god. The Red Keep reared above them, ancient walls glowing faint crimson in the morning light. At its gates, gold cloaks parted for Ned's company. Inside, the corridors smelled of lemon oil and torch smoke. Kingsguard in enamel-white plate stood sentinel, their cloaks brushing the marble like feathered snow. Ned knew only Sir Barristan Selmy of old. They greeted each other with the brief handshake of men who have tested themselves and found no false metal. Word spread swiftly. The king would receive Lord Eddard in the throne room before the day's end. Hours stretched, filled by the unsettling quiet of courtiers who whispered behind their sleeves, yet never spoke aloud. Ned unpacked in the Tower of the Hand, once Tywin Lannister's stronghold within the castle, though stripped now of the lion's banners. The room smelled faintly of lilac, as though some servants had hurriedly tried to mask tenacious traces of Lannister presence. At midday, a page escorted Ned to the throne room. When the doors boomed open, the air within felt alive, tense, caught between anticipation and dread. Iron torches threw wavering shadows across the pillars. At the far end rose the Iron Throne, forged swords snarling upward in mad silhouettes, and upon it sat Aerys II Targaryen. His silver hair hung lank around a gaunt face, beard untrimmed, eyes burning with feverish brightness. Ned advanced the prescribed steps, bowed on one knee, and waited. The hall felt painfully still, every rustle of silk echoing like wind through crypts. Aerys leaned forward, fingers drumming the arm of the throne. "Stark," he hissed, voice half a whisper, half a rasp. "They tell me you are a loyal dog." Ned kept his gaze fixed upon a sword jutting from the throne's side, twisted, blackened at the tip from dragonfire centuries cold. "I'm sworn to serve the realm," he answered, thankful his voice did not waver. "The realm." Aerys laughed softly, each note edged with hysteria. "The realm has too many enemies, too many traitors. Would you be my jailer, Stark? My shield? Or perhaps my executioner?" The king's words slithered through the hall, leaving silence in their wake. Ned felt 100 eyes upon him. Rhaegar standing off to the side in polished silver armor. Queen Rhaella pale behind a lattice of ladies. Varys in lavender silk with hands folded like a spider waiting at the center of his web. "I would be your hand, your grace." The title weighed bitter on Ned's tongue. "Your eyes and ears, your voice and your sword, as the office demands." "We shall see." Aerys straightened, joints popping, and his voice gathered more strength. "Swear your fealty, Lord Stark, beneath the gaze of every soul in this hall. Swear that your heart beats only to serve your king, that your Stark honor will bind you to me more fiercely than any chain." Ned's breath felt shallow, yet he spoke the ancient words. "I, Eddard of House Stark, do swear by earth and water, by ice and fire, that I shall be true to the crown, serve the king with honor, faith and courage. I pledge my life and my strength to King Aerys, for this night and all nights to come." Aerys' smile split thin lips, revealing yellowed teeth. "Rise, Lord Hand." Applause followed like rain in a graveyard. Forced, staccato, quickly dying. Rhaegar's expression remained unreadable, yet his violet eyes lingered upon Ned, with a spark of something Ned might have mistaken for regret. That evening, the small council convened in a long-windowed chamber overlooking Blackwater Rush. Sunlight flowed red through the glass panes as though the river itself had bled. Ned took the chair at the king's right, aware of every glance cast his way. Grand Maester Pycelle sat across, beard cascading like a bridal veil, fingers heavy with rings. Next to him, Lord Varys fanned himself languidly, a smile curling at the corners of his soft mouth. The Brindon River, called Dark Barristan behind closed doors for his somber manner, occupied the seat reserved for Master of Laws. He seldom spoke, but his grey eyes missed little. Lord Corlton Chelstead, Master of Coin, shuffled ledgers with nerves clinging like cobwebs. Above them all, on a dais, loomed King Aerys, refusing to relinquish the throne room, even for counsel. A single man sat apart against the far wall. Rhaegar Targaryen, not formally of the council, yet present by his father's capricious indulgence. The first matter concerned a grain shortage in the Stormlands. Word arrived that recent storms had drowned the harvest, leaving half the lordships clamoring for relief. Pycelle advised levying additional taxes upon the Reach to cover the cost. Varys suggested dispatching a royal envoy to assess the damage, lest opportunists inflate their suffering. Ned listened, head bowed, weighing possibilities. "If the small folk starve, they will riot," he said finally, voice low. "Better to open the Red Keep's granaries now. Send shipments south at once. We can replenish stores when spring comes." Pycelle sputtered through his beard. "Those grains were paid from the treasury, my lord. Free distribution would strain." "The realm bleeds," Ned countered. "And when a body bleeds, coin means little." A flicker of approval crossed Aerys' face. Gone so quickly, Ned questioned whether he had imagined it. The king leaned toward him, the smell of sweat and smoke drifting across the table. "Yes, yes, the hand will act. See it done, Stark." Ned bowed slightly. Already he saw how every decision required balancing virtue against suspicion, for each helpful deed could be interpreted as treason in this hall. That night Ned stood upon a balcony outside the Tower of the Hand, wind tugging lazy at his cloak. King's Landing sprawled below, chimneys coughing sparks into violet dusk. Somewhere a bell tolled the prayer hour. The city reminded him of a fire left untended, embers glowing beneath ash. One stiff gust, and everything might ignite. "Lord Stark." Rhaegar's voice came from the stair. He stepped into moonlight wearing a plain tunic, sword strapped to his hip, though no guards accompanied him. The Crown Prince's silver hair shone like wire. Ned inclined his head. "Your Highness." Rhaegar joined him at the balustrade. "I am not blind," he began softly. "I know what my father did to your kin. I know what he still desires." He paused, as though expecting some response. Ned offered none. "I argued another choice for hand," Rhaegar continued. "One who might temper Aerys's darker humors. He would not heed me. Yet perhaps fate placed you here for a reason." "Fate rarely favors my house," Ned answered. "Perhaps you must force it to." A faint smile ghosted the prince's lips. "Keep Winterfell in your heart, my lord. Do not let this place swallow it." Then he left, footsteps soft upon the stone like memory departing before dawn. Days cycled forward. Ned's mornings began before sunrise, council meetings to weigh petitions from across the realm, letters to draft, ledgers to inspect. He walked the stables in midday heat, speaking with ostlers as readily as with lords, learning which horses required new shoes, which grooms whispered rebellion over cups of ale. He met silently with Lord Commander Gerald Hightower of the King's Guard, and learned of scarce funds for new mail. He heard from the Master Armorer that half the city guard wore patchwork armor rusting at the seams. Everywhere Ned turned he saw cracks. 1 week after his arrival, Varys summoned Ned to secret passages beneath the Red Keep. Torchlight painted the eunuch's round shadow upon wet stone as he guided Ned through twisting tunnels older than Aegon's conquest. They halted before a wooden door barred with iron. Varys produced a small bronze key. "Your office requires certain truths," the spider whispered. "What you decide to do with them is yours alone." He unlocked the door and motioned Ned inside. The chamber was narrow, stacked with scrolls, each bound by string and sealed with wax. Ned recognized sigils pressed into many of them, Lannister crimson, Tyrell green, Martell sunburst, even the direwolf of his own house. Letters, reports, secrets, Varys' private hoard. I ask no payment, Varys said. Only remember who placed this knowledge at your disposal, if the day comes that my position wavers. Ned's jaw tightened. Knowledge bought with fear is fragile. Ah, but fear is the coin of every kingdom, my lord. Its value never falls. Ned spent hours reading. Some scrolls revealed petty scandals, lovers' trysts in the Maiden Vault, Reachmen bribing customs officers. Others whispered darker rumors. Shipments of wildfire stockpiled beneath the city. A group of zealots in Old Town claiming visions of dragons reborn. Murmurs that Tywin Lannister marshaled forces in the west under the pretense of expanded fortifications. Ned replaced each scroll with growing unease. That evening, he requested audience with King Aerys in private. The king received him in a high chamber, lit by braziers. Flames flickered upon the king's sharp cheekbones. He paced in restless circles, nails scratching at his forearm as though fleas tormented him. Ned spoke of the wildfire caches, of potential dangers should they be mishandled. He approached cautiously, framing concerns as loyalty. Aerys's eyes widened, excitement mingling with madness. Wildfire, he hissed, will cleanse traitors when the time is ripe. Let them think I do not watch. Benton. Your grace, the city. Aerys whirled. The city obeys or burns, he spat. Do not question matters you cannot fathom. Stark. Then, voice softening to chilling calm. But you have served me well. Continue, and the realm shall know peace. Peace, Ned thought, walking back through torchlit corridors, felt more distant each passing breath. A moon turned, then another. Winterfell's snows became a memory traced in dust upon his boots. He wrote letters to Catelyn, describing little, for quills could scarcely convey the stench of rot beneath the castle's gilded surface. Robb sent replies filled with boyish pride about training with Sir Roderick. Bran recounted climbing the broken tower near the Godswood. Little Sansa asked if King Aerys would attend her name day. Ned smiled at their innocence, yet felt it slipping through his fingers. The capital shifted around him, merchants murmuring of new tariffs, the faith complaining of crown interference in sept appointments, Lannister envoys arriving more frequently despite Tywin remaining in the west. Pycelle lauded each envoy as proof of reconciliation, yet Ned noted how often their visits ended with sealed chests, borne away under cover of dusk. One sticky afternoon Varys came again, bearing a report of unrest in the Riverlands. A band of knights, calling themselves the Kingswood Brothers, had grown bold after being dispersed years before, harassing travelers along the Blackwater. Aerys demanded their swift annihilation, but Rhaegar suggested reasoned pacification. Ned mediated, proposing joint patrols of city guard and crown knights, though he sensed Rhaegar's disappointment. A prince longing for chivalric purpose, not compromise. Rhaegar visited the court singers more often, slipping into the Sept of Baelor at night to listen to quiet hymns beneath stained glass. Rumors sprouted like weeds. Some claimed he read prophecies in dusty tomes, others that he sought conversation with Maester Aemon at the wall through ravens. Ned watched him from afar and wondered whether the prince's dreams could withstand the kingdom his father would leave him. In the privacy of the Hand Solar, Ned studied a map of Westeros. Pins marked grain stores, unrest, recent councils. Thread linked Lannisport to King's Landing like a thick crimson vein. Each day the thread tightened. Varys spoke of gold pouring from Casterly Rock into city taverns, bribing sellswards, buying minor officials. Tywin prepares for something, Ned muttered. Sir Brynden Rivers, seldom talkative, answered, For Tywin, preparation itself is power. He will move only when sure of victory. Messer Mazalar. Then we must know what victory he seeks, Ned replied. And so he sent his own ravens. To Howland Reed in the Neck, to Lord Manderley in White Harbor, to Hoster Tully, whose daughter Catelyn missed her home. He asked for whispers, movements of troops, merchant traffic shifting in unnatural patterns. Information trickled back like meltwater. Slow, yet constant. Lannisport shipyards labored day and night. Grafton's port at Gulltown saw sudden surges of Western coin, purchasing casks of salt pork and lamp oil. Ned reported findings to the council. Pycelle dismissed them as routine trade. Chelstead fretted over ledger margins. Only Varys nodded sagely, fingers steepled. We should not ignore the lion when he sharpens his claws, the eunuch murmured. Aerys waved a hand, uninterested. Let Tywin sharpen. He has lost his bite. The king's midnight laughter rattled like a chain drawn across iron. In the court's shadowed corners, Lady Ashara Dane danced with northern knights. Lord Roose Bolton, visiting under the guise of homage, drifted like fog through audiences, pale eyes betraying no loyalty. Pettier Baelish arrived from the Vale, a minor lordling eager to win coin tables, pockets jingling and eyes always watching. The Red Keep had become a cauldron, each lord and lady a bubble rising in scalding broth, threatening to burst. One humid night, the king hosted a feast to celebrate the realm's unbroken peace. So he declared his servants carried silver trays piled with honeyed quail and spice-roasted boar. Musicians filled the throne room with pipes and harps. Queen Rhaella smiled stiffly, fingers clenched white around her goblet. Ned sat near the end of the high table, beside Sir Arthur Dane, Sword of the Morning, who spoke politely of dawn and the traditions of Starfall, but whose violet eyes calculated every word. As the feast waned, Aerys rose, tart orange light from candelabra painting his gaunt features. "Let Stark join me," he called, beckoning Ned forward. The hall fell hushed. Ned approached, bowing at the foot of the Iron Throne. "You serve well," Aerys said, voice loud enough to reach the furthest alcoves. "Yet I am beset by doubts. Tell me, Hand, will Winterfell answer if I call for blood?" "They." Ned glanced up, the iron blades looming around the king like talons. "Winterfell stands ready to serve justice, your grace, never cruelty." Aerys's eyes blazed. "Cruelty? Cruelty keeps lesser men obedient." He lifted a hand. Servants dragged forth 2 trembling thieves caught stealing bread from the royal kitchens. Before a crowd of nobles grown fat on venison, Aerys demanded Ned pass judgment. Ned's throat tightened. He looked at the boys. No more than 12, cheeks hollow. He remembered Bran climbing Winterfell's walls, remembered Arya chasing cats along stone corridors. "Mercy," he said, "will earn loyalty. Have them flogged and put to work in the granaries." The hall rustled with uneasy whispers. Aerys' mouth twisted. For a heartbeat, Ned believed the king would overrule him, but instead, Aerys laughed, wild and sudden. "Yes, mercy of the wolf. Let it be so." The boys collapsed in relief. Afterward, Rhaegar cornered Ned outside the hall. "You defied him," the prince said quietly. "I counseled justice. Someday justice may cost more than you're able to pay." Rhaegar's words bore weight beyond their softness. Months slipped by like leaves on a river. Each dawn Ned steeled himself anew. Yet each dusk he questioned whether he drifted closer to peace or merely deeper into a labyrinth from which no man could emerge unscathed. He wrote again to Catelyn, longer this time, though he burned half the pages, unwilling to send fear northward. He told her of the children, how Princess Elias' little Rhaenys danced in the court's nursery, how Prince Viserys swung wooden swords at phantom foes. He did not mention the wildfire caches, nor the rumors of screams heard beneath the throne room at night. One morning, Varys arrived before first light, eyes rimmed red. He produced a scroll, sealed with black wax. "From Dorne," he whispered. Ned broke the seal and read, "A planned tourney at Storm's End to celebrate Stannis Baratheon's coming of age. Lords from across the realm invited. Among them, Tywin Lannister accepted enthusiastically. Aerys had not been invited." Ned clenched his fist. "This is bait." Varys nodded. "If Aerys goes, the realm could fracture. If he forbids attendance, lords may rebel." Ned knew his task: persuade the king to allow the tourney and remain in the capital. Yet Aerys raged when told. "They plot beneath my nose," he snarled, spittle shining on his beard. "They mock their king." "Your Grace," Ned said, choosing words carefully, "grant them their games. Let the eyes of the realm see your generosity. Their loyalty will return thricefold." The king's gaze flickered. "Generosity," he repeated, as though tasting a foreign spice. Finally, with an abrupt nod, he relented, but only if Rhaegar attended in his stead. The prince accepted with rigid calm. Preparations consumed weeks. When Rhaegar departed, Ned felt the balance of the court shift. Without the prince's quiet gravity, Aerys's moods grew more volatile. He ordered the city gates barred at dusk, the stables inspected for hidden enemies. Cooks tasted every dish thrice. He spoke long with pyromancers from the Guild Hall of Alchemists, voices seeping beneath Ned's door at night like oily smoke. On the 20th day of Rhaegar's absence, rumors spread of a riot in Flea Bottom. A baker accused of shorting loaves was beaten. The gold cloaks intervened late, and the crowd turned on them. Fires took 3 streets. Ned walked among the ashes by dawn, cloth over mouth to block the stink of burned tallow and flesh. Children dug through debris for scraps while city guards hauled charred beams away. Ned pledged coin for rebuilding, but he saw hopelessness etched into their faces. That afternoon, Grand Maester Pycelle arrived in the Tower of the Hand, bearing a letter from Casterly Rock. Lord Tywin requested audience with the king to discuss mutual security concerns. Ned sat long after Pycelle left, considering each word. Mutual meant the possibility of alliance or war. Security concerns meant Tywin's armies, silent but ready. At council, Ned proposed inviting Tywin under strict terms. 100 men only, weapons sheathed, discussions in full view of the court. Aerys surprised them all by agreeing. Then he commanded new wildfire pots placed beneath the throne room, in case lions forget their place. That night Ned dreamed of Winterfell's crypts. He walked among the stone kings, each bearing iron swords across their laps. His father's statue turned its head, eyes carved in blank sorrow. Rickard's mouth opened, yet no sound came. Only flame burst forth, consuming Ned's dream until he woke gasping. Tywin arrived 2 weeks later, banners streaming, a serpent of crimson and gold, winding up Aegon's high hill. His procession halted before the Red Keep's gate, and from his litter emerged the Lion of Casterly Rock, austere in golden plate chased with rubies. He removed helm and gauntlets, presenting himself open-palmed. Ned watched from the battlements beside Sir Barristan. "He brings fewer men than allowed," Barristan observed, "which means he trusts his tongue more than his sword today." Ned answered. The throne room audience began under tense hush. Aerys leaned upon the iron throne's edge, nails tapping restless rhythms. Tywin knelt, but there was no humility in the motion. It was a formality, nothing more. They parried with words about harvests and stepstones piracy, but every exchange jittered with unresolved bitterness. "Your Grace," Tywin said finally, "I bring news from the Westerlands. Bandits harry our borders wearing cloaks of the crown. False loyalties breed chaos." "Man, Toll." Aerys' lip curled. "Perhaps Western farmers mistake their own lord's soldiers for mine." "Perhaps," Tywin allowed, unfazed. "I seek only clarity," Ned observed, noting how Tywin's words cast suspicion, not only toward the crown, but toward Ned's office. He wondered if the lion meant to rouse Aerys against the wolf. It nearly succeeded. Later, Aerys confronted Ned in the Queen's Solar, beard quivering with rage. "You send men to the west without my leave?" Ned's shock was genuine. "I have sent none, Your Grace. Tywin says otherwise." "Tywin lies." Ned did not flinch. Aerys' eyes darted, uncertainty flickering. Then, abruptly, he laughed. "Yes, yes, the lion's mane covers many deceits. Very well, Stark, prove your innocence." "How?" "Bring me proof of Tywin's disloyalty. Expose the treason behind his courtesy, and the realm will remember who kept its king safe." Ned exhaled slowly. The task bordered on impossibility. Tywin rarely left evidence, but the alternative was suspicion festering into lethal mistrust. He wrote to Catelyn once more, this time leaving half the letter blank, for words failed him. Instead, he pressed his thumb beside his seal, a smear of ink like dried blood. In the weeks that followed, Ned dispatched trusted agents west. Jory Castle, Harwin from the stables, 2 silent sisters sworn to the gods. They posed as merchants, sept attendants, minstrels. Reports came trickling. Lannister mines dug deeper than ever. Wagons laden with fresh forged blades rolled toward the Golden Tooth. Yet no letter, no confession, nothing to convict Tywin openly. Within the Red Keep, tension coiled tight. Aerys' rages grew. One servant accused of dropping a dish lost an ear. Another rumored to whisper that the king smelled of smoke, was burned alive in the dungeons. Ned argued, pleaded, but each protest frayed the last cords of trust binding king to hand. Then, on a rain-swept night, Rhaegar returned from Storm's End. He entered the throne room unannounced, armor streaked with travel grime, crown prince cloak heavy with water. He knelt before the Iron Throne. "Father," he said, "I bring news." Aerys leaned forward, wet hair plastered to his temples. "Speak, my son." The tourney brought lords of every corner. They spoke of fears of wildfire, of disappearances, of a king who sees treason in every council. Rhaegar's words echoed dangerously in the hall. "They fear for the realm." The king trembled. "They conspire to dethrone me. They beg for assurance. Give them justice, and they will give you love." Aerys' laugh rang hollow. "Love? What is love to a dragon?" He rose, voice whirling toward Shriek. "Fear is my scepter. Fire my crown. They will bend or burn." Then Ned closed his eyes. The walls felt suddenly closer, the air hotter. He took a step forward, and Aerys' gaze snapped to him. Silence fell. The torch flames flickered wildly, as though a wind had passed through the sealed hall. Ned felt every watching eye. Varys between pillars, Pycelle fretful by the dais, Barristan's hand on hilt at the rear. "My hand," Aerys murmured, each word caressed like lover's skin. "Tell them, tell my son fire conquers fear." Ned's mouth tasted of ash. He saw Rhaegar's expression, pleading without words. If he echoed the king, he damned the realm. If he defied him, perhaps he damned the north. Choices stretched like icy rivers, each promising death. He spoke. "Fire may conquer fear, your grace, yet only honor conquers hearts." Aerys froze. For bare heartbeats time ceased. Then the king's scream shattered it, high and furious. "Traitor!" Steel rasped as guards advanced. Rhaegar stepped between his father and Ned, hand on sword pommel. "No," he said, voice like still water masking storms. "Lord Stark has served faithfully. You named him hand to speak truths you would not hear. He accuses me of dishonor." Spittle flew from Aerys' lips. "He warns you of peril." Rhaegar looked at Ned. Honorable peril. The standoff held a breath longer, then another. At last, Aerys collapsed back upon the throne, shoulders heaving. "Leave me," he whispered. "All of you, leave." They filed out, tension unspooling like bowstrings. Beyond the doors, Ned exhaled. Rhaegar touched his arm. "The day will come," the prince murmured, "when we must choose what to save." And Ned understood. The north, the realm. Perhaps both could not be saved. He returned to the Tower of the Hand. Rain battered shuttered windows like thrown stones. He sat at his desk until dawn, candles burning low, quill poised above parchment. He began a letter to Catelyn, then another to Jon, Arryn and the Vale, then to Robert Baratheon, still at Storm's End nursing bruises from the tourney melee. He wrote of wildfire, of lions gathering, of dragons writhing in madness. He begged them to stand ready, yet he did not write what haunted him most. That honor might soon demand a choice between king and kingdom, between oath and life. As the sun's first pale light crept across his desk, Ned Stark sealed each letter, pressed wax beneath the direwolf signet, and whispered a silent prayer to the nameless gods that had watched his family since the first men carved faces in the weirwoods. Outside, King's Landing stirred awake, unsuspecting of storms gathering beyond sight. Somewhere deep within the Red Keep, beneath stone older than memory, wildfire slumbered, awaiting a spark. And in the sky beyond the city walls, crows circled, black wings slicing the dawn, as though heralds of a fate yet written. Gai, ahwa, PGSQL. Dawn seeped through a low bank of cloud like wine spreading across a linen cloth. Thin shafts of rose gold catching upon the copper gutters of the Tower of the Hand. Eddard Stark had not slept. The letter he held bore the faint scent of smoke and pine. Winterfell's hearths carried south by raven's wings, and for hours he had traced his wife's words until their ink felt carved into the flesh of his thumb. Iron resolve had steadied him in a dozen battles, yet the script of his own children's hands unraveled him more swiftly than any blade. Robb wrote of a gray direwolf pup he had begun to train. Sansa thanked him for a silken ribbon Ned scarcely recalled sending. Arya complained of Septon Chael's dull lessons. Even baby Rickon had made some scrawl Cat assured him was meant to be a wolf's head. Bran's letter was shorter. He had fallen while climbing and bruised a knee, but would climb again tomorrow. Ned smiled at that, and caught himself wishing it were tomorrow already. He sealed his replies with fresh wax, folding each with deliberate care, though his body yearned for the furs of his bed. Sleep would not come. Too much wild smoke hovered beneath the ceiling, lingering from the torches pyromancers had carried through these halls the previous night. Their cloying alchemical perfume, pine pitch and lime and something sharper, clung to Ned's hair and clothing like invisible cobwebs. He washed his face in chilled water, wincing as droplets traced the hollows beneath his eyes, then belted his sword and strode into the corridor. The Red Keep breathed differently before the city fully woke. Guardsmen's boots rang hollow. Distant ravens cawed. A chambermaid hurried past, curtsied, and vanished into some servant's stare so quickly Ned wondered if she were real. He found Sir Barristan Selmy awaiting him by a shuttered window that overlooked the Blackwater. The Lord Commander wore no armor, only a plain wool tunic and cloak clasped at the throat. His hair, white as hoarfrost, caught a sliver of dawn. "You wish to walk the cellars," Barristan greeted, voice low to keep from echoing. "Best done before others stir." "Aye," Ned answered, grateful for the night's quiet solidity. Together they descended stone spirals, each step plunging them deeper into the keep's belly. Here torch brackets rusted from constant damp. Here the dragonbone foundations radiated faint warmth, as if still remembering the fires that birthed them. A lone torch guided their way until Barristan halted at an iron-bound door. 2 gold cloaks stood guard. By Ned's orders, they bore the direwolf badge of Winterfell upon their sleeves. They saluted and unbarred the door. The chamber beyond stretched long as Winterfell's great hall, though far narrower. Casks of wildfire lined one wall 3 tiers high, each marked with the pyromancer's green flame sigil. The air shimmered with invisible heat. Ned tasted sour resin on his tongue. 700 jars, Barristan said softly. "More arrive each week." Ned knelt beside one cask. The seal appeared unbroken, yet hair rose along his forearms. "If one spark finds this place, half the castle would vanish," Barristan finished. "Perhaps more." Ned rose, turning to the king's guard. "I want a double watch set here at all hours. Men we trust, not sellswords." He hesitated. "And quiet tongues, Sir Barristan. The king must not know we mistrust his own safeguards." Barristan inclined his head, meeting Ned's gaze with unspoken understanding. As they departed, torchlight flickered across steel rivets, casting momentary illusions of emerald flames licking between casks. Ned exhaled once free of the corridor, feeling as though he had surfaced from icy water. By midday the city roasted beneath a sudden swelter, as though the stranger had pressed his forge-like breath upon King's Landing. Wharf workers stripped to breeches, skin glistening. Fish spoiled faster than mongers could pack them in salt. Overheated tempers set fistfights flaring in the shadow of Stone Tree Street, and 2 gold cloaks died putting down a drunken brawl near Cobbler's Square. Ned walked those streets flanked by Jory Castle and Harwin, listening more than speaking. Vendors recognized the direwolf cloak now. Some bowed heads respectfully. Others glanced away, muttering about northern wolves meddling in southern quarrels. In Flea Bottom, he lingered by a print shop where outlawed broadsheets were rumored to be run after dark. The printer, a stooped man with ink-blotted fingers, denied knowledge of seditious writing. Yet Ned observed a pile of fresh parchment smelling of wet oak gall. He left without confrontation, For now, better to watch which hands those sheets reached. Returning late, he paused in the godswood, a humble courtly thing compared to Winterfell's ancient grove. Yet the rustling of leaves softened the weight on his chest. Kneeling beneath the solitary heart tree, he pressed fingers to red sap that looked too like blood. He whispered the names of his dead, Brandon, Rickard, Lyanna, and asked their spirits what course an honorable man must steer when all tides threatened to dash him upon rocks. The leaves answered only with wind. When he rose, Aerys awaited upon the stone bridge that led back toward the keep. The eunuch's lavender robe spilled like spilled dusk across the pale stones. His smile stretched taut. "So diligent, my lord," Aerys cooed. "Many hands but one heart. Tell me, does your heart grow weary?" "Men." "You have tidings," Ned said, ignoring the question. Aerys produced a folded parchment. "From your agent in Lannisport, freshly plucked from a gull." Ned accepted it, eyes narrowing. Inside, Jory's ciphered hand revealed that Lord Daemon Marbrand had begun drilling 2,000 men near Banefort's coastal cliffs. Under Tywin's purse, yet sworn to no banner. Ships laden with dun cloth had sailed under night, origin unknown. "Black sails for black deeds," Ned muttered. "Indeed," Aerys agreed, voice laden with false sorrow. "And yet our good king slumbers through swords, forging at his doorstep." Ned's gaze sharpened. "Speak plainly." Aerys' smile thinned. "Plain speech is rarely safe in these halls. But I am told that Tywin's gold buys more than grain. It buys oaths from sell-sales in Volantis, from crossbowmen in Pentos, even from hedge knights gone hungry since the last war. Soon the lion may possess more teeth than any dragon. We cannot act on whispers." Yet Ned's stomach tightened. Varys' whispers proved alarmingly accurate of late. "Whispers can become screams," the spider replied, and glided away before Ned could answer. A raven arrived from Storm's End 3 days later. Robert Baratheon's bold script looked drunken, even sober. He thanked Ned for the warning, called Aerys a mad old fool twice over, and swore any lion setting foot in the Stormlands would lose its tail. He also expressed hope Ned would taste the local vintage of sour red when next they met. "Well, drink until your northern grim melts off, and maybe you'll laugh for once." Ned smiled despite himself. Yet Robert's tone darkened near the end. Rumor placed Rhaegar in the Dornish marches, meeting quietly with lords Dane and Fowler. Robert mistrusted those nobles. He demanded to know what prince stalked the sands seeking. Ned burned that portion after copying the gist for his private journal. Best Robert not keep such accusations lying about. Parchment could be stolen. Rhaegar returned again soon after. Alone, save for a single Kingsguard, Sir Oswell went. His cloak was sand-stained, his temper unusually taut. Ned met him on the training ground at dusk, where the prince hacked at a Quinton with Dawn's slender practice, twin borrowed from the armory. Sweat darkened his collar, each strike rang bitter. Ned waited until Rhaegar paused for breath. "You rode south," he said by way of greeting. Rhaegar nodded, wiping brow and sleeve. "To Starfall." He did not elaborate. Ned studied him. He found no comfort there. The prince sheathed the practice blade, expression masking grief with regal calm. "Comfort is a stranger these days, yet I found truth." He stepped closer. "The realm trembles, Lord Stark. My father's paranoia spreads like a fever, infecting every court. Tywin gathers strength. Hoster Tully whispers alliance with the Vale. Even Dorne tests the wind for shifting banners. If we delay, the 7 kingdoms will tear themselves apart. Belyan Samor. What would you do?" Rhaegar's violet eyes held a flare of something fierce, almost desperate. "I would call a great council. Remove my father from harm's path, honorably, peacefully, before blood is spilled." Ned felt winter cold despite the heated air. A great council could only end one way: deposition. Treason by word rather than sword, yet treason still. "He is your king," Ned reminded quietly. "He is my father." Rhaegar's voice cracked on the word. "Perhaps that is why I must act." They stood in silence as swifts swooped overhead, catching gnats in the fading light. Ned pictured wildfire casks, pictured children in flea bottom. If Aerys ignited the city, 500,000 souls would burn screaming. Honor demanded loyalty, but honor without mercy birthed only ashes. He clasped Rhaegar's forearm. "Speak plainly when the hour comes," he said, "and I will stand for peace." That night, thunder rolled in from the sea. Rain sluiced gutters, drummed on slate roofs, turned city streets into coursing rivulets. Lightning forked behind the dragon pit's broken dome, illuminating spidery cracks. Ned paced the tower's highest balcony until dawn, mind-churning. He wondered if Jon Arryn had battled such storms when fostering Robert and himself. Wondered how the Falcon Lord measured duty against doom. Across the narrow sea, dawn broke sooner. In Braavos, a sell-sail company named the Golden Jackals signed a 10-month contract paid entirely in Lannister gold. Ned learned this 6 days later when Maester Alfred, sent north to Braavos under guise of purchasing spice, smuggled his report through Gull mail. Ned summoned Varys, Pycelle, and Chelstead to a private conference. "Tywin hires foreign swords," Ned said, thrusting the parchment upon the table. "We must prepare levy lists, secure supply lines, and inform the Crown's fleet." Pycelle bristled like a grand, offended goat. "You assume Lord Tywin intends rebellion." "I assume the worst, so the realm may hope for better," Ned snapped. Chelstead twisted fingers together. "Preparing armies costs silver we do not possess, my lord." Varys fanned himself serenely. "Perhaps persuasion costs less than preparations. A timely raven bearing the king's gracious words could dissuade." "Persuasion fails once swords are hired," Ned cut in. "We act now or bleed later." The old maester sighed and dabbed sweat from his brow. After heated debate, they agreed on a compromise. Strengthen garrisons at Crackclaw Point and Dragonstone while dispatching envoys to Casterly Rock seeking explanation. Ned doubted Tywin would confess, but the gesture at least positioned royal men where they could hold the Blackwater mouth. That evening a masked courier delivered a square box to Ned's solar. Inside rested the severed hand of a northern scout, one Ned had sent west. The ring upon the stiff forefinger bore House Castle's sigil. No note accompanied the grisly token. Jory identified the ring, jaw clenched until blood drained from his face. Ned ordered the box burned. He paced until candles guttered, fury and sorrow wrestling within. Tywin had sent a message. "Wolves that prowl lion's domain lose more than tails." Ned penned a terse missive to Rhaegar, requesting immediate counsel at midnight. In the prince's apartments, harps lay silent amid flickering lamplight. Rhaegar read the account of the hand, face pale. He poured wine but drank none. "Hate challenges you," Rhaegar said finally. "Challenges the crown, not I'd. We cannot ignore this. We cannot charge blindly either." Rhaegar's fist tightened on the goblet stem until Ned feared it would snap. "What? We are out of time." Ned remembered Robert's fire, Jon Arryn's tempered calm, the cold clarity of a blizzard cutting across the Wolfswood. "Then we move measured. Summon Lord Jon Arryn to court. His counsel balances Robert's wrath. Quietly request Stannis sail the royal fleet upriver, ostensibly to train oarsmen against Stepstone pirates, and gather the small council in 3 days to propose a grand tourney at Riverrun next spring." He met Rhaegar's puzzled gaze. "A tourney draws nobles from every corner, shows the realm unified. Meanwhile, we prepare." Rhaegar considered, then nodded. "We walk a blade's edge, my lord. Better the edge than the abyss." Over the next fortnight, couriers galloped through the King's Road, ravens beat frantic wings toward the Vale and Dragonstone, and Ned seldom slept more than 2 hours at a stretch. He reviewed grain tallies, roused master smiths to accelerate armor refitting, and personally inspected watch barracks along the Mudgate. The gold cloaks, commanded by Janos Slynt, offered deference yet exuded insolence. Many owed their posts to Lannister coin. Ned replaced 2 captains outright, promoting lads from Crackclaw Point, whose loyalty lay with the Crown's pay chest. One humid night, as he returned from the barracks, dagger shadows detached from an alcove near the old armory. Jory glimpsed motion and shouted, drawing steel. 3 cloaked figures lunged. Iron clanged. Torchlight flashed across bared teeth. Ned ducked a slashing dirk, felt wind peel past his cheek. Jory blocked a blow meant for Ned's spine, countered, and buried his sword hilt deep in one attacker's belly. Harwin engaged the second, the alley too narrow for graceful swordplay. Ned faced the third, parrying desperate flurries, until the assailant overreached. He stepped inside, slammed pommel to temple, and the man crumpled. It ended in breaths. 2 assailants dead, the third wounded too badly to flee. Under torchlight, his cloak fell away, revealing a leather jerkin dyed red within. Lion colors? Worse, his shoulder bore a tattoo, a jackal biting a crown. Lannister gold and Cellsail ink beneath the same skin. Ned knelt beside the man as blood pooled warm. Who sent you? The Cellsail spat pink froth, eyes glassing. Gold. Pays. All debts. Life fled before more could be said. Ned stood, wiping blade. Footsteps thundered, more gold cloaks arriving late. He issued curt orders. Bodies removed, alley scoured. Anyone speaking of the attack bribed or threatened to silence. Then he returned to the tower, washed crimson from hands that would never feel clean, and penned an encoded raven to Lord Manderley to double White Harbor's patrols. War, he now believed, was no longer a question of if but when. 2 mornings later, King Aerys summoned the council. His beard had been trimmed, yet tufts jutted in uneven wisps. He wore a black velvet robe embroidered with red flames. Upon his brow sat a thin circlet of beaten copper gone green at the creases. The pyromancers stood arrayed behind the throne like gaunt vultures, copper masks glinting. Lords, Aerys began, voice thick. Treachery festers, but dragons feast upon treachery. He gestured. 2 servants dragged forth a small wooden cage containing 3 barrel-capped wildfire jars. Behold my hatchlings. With these, we shall scour traitors from their dens. Pycelle stammered objections about cost and risk. Chelstead quivered visibly. Ned forced calm. Your Grace, wildfire wins battles. But men win wars. If we wield fire before securing loyalty, we invite rebellion. Aerys' chuckle grated like steel on slate. Rebellion seeds itself in minds stark. Burn the mines, and rebellion withers. Rhaegar stepped forward, cloak swirling like storm clouds. Father, listen. The realm senses fear. Show them your mercy, and fear becomes reverence. Mercy? Aerys sneered. Mercy is weakness. Ned felt the council teetering. He chose deliberate bluntness. Your Grace, wildfire leaks if stored poorly. A single spark could consume even dragons. The king's eyes narrowed to gleaming slits. Do you threaten me, Lord Hand? Silence stabbed the chamber. Ned bowed his head an inch. I counsel safety. Safety is the fancy of cowards. Aerys rose. You forget your place. You dare lecture kingly flame with northern snows. Rhaegar interjected. He forgets nothing. Lord Stark saved lives quelling the Flea Bottom riot. He spares no effort for your people. Aerys waved him off. Enough. Leave me. All of you. The council is done. His voice cracked ice. Except you. Stark. Remain. Unease prickled Ned's spine as others filed out. The pyromancers lingered. One rolled the cage forward until wildfire jars rattled. When only Ned, Aerys, and 2 masked alchemists remained, the door slammed. Aerys descended the dais. You are too honest, Stark. Honesty cuts. He traced a finger along Ned's sleeve, leaving a smear of soot. Tell me, would you burn for your honor? Burn for those thieves you spared? Burn for the children whose fate you placed above mine? Ned inhaled the sour alchemical odor. I would burn to protect them. Aerys smiled rottenly. Good, because burn you will if you fail me again. He stepped back, gesturing sharply. The alchemist withdrew a tiny phial, thin crystal, swirling with green. Aerys tucked it into Ned's palm. A gift. Keep it close. Remember, the king's fire. Then he laughed, high, manic, echoing long after Ned fled the hall. Outside, Rhaegar waited with Barristan. Ned handed the file to the king's guard wordlessly. Barristan's face blanched. He secured it in a steel lockbox with sigils, thrice warded, swore 7 oaths to destroy it if touched by anyone save the Hand. That night Ned convened a secret meeting atop the Tower of the Hand. Rhaegar, Barristan Selmy, Jon Connington, newly arrived from Griffin's Roost, and Stannis Baratheon, whose fleet now anchored at Dragonstone under pretense. Candlelight wavered in the open air. The city lights glittered below like fallen stars caught in dark water. Ned spoke first, detailing the assassination attempt, Tywin's hires, Aerys' threat. He laid bare the wildfire caches mapping tunnels beneath city streets. Stannis swore a sharp curse. Connington paced, fists on hips. Barristan listened in grim stillness. "We must act," Stannis said flatly. "Dragon's madness grows. Give me leave. I'll storm the throne room before dawn and end it." Rhaegar shook his head. "Kingslayer's deeds would make me kinslayer. The realm would fracture beyond repair." "Dan T. Then call your council," Connington urged. "The great lords love you more than him. Give them cause, and they'll rally." Barristan at last spoke. "If you move against the king without the realm's sanction, the king's guard must oppose you. 7 oaths bind us." Ned's voice cut through. "There's a path between oath and ruin. Tywin plots to strike. Let us draw his claws first. If we expose his treason publicly, the realm will turn on him, and Aerys will cling to you, Rhaegar, for salvation. When the wildfire threat is laid bare, lords will demand restraint or abdication. Either Aerys yields or stands alone." Silence greeted the plan. Wind tugged cloaks, carrying faint tang of salt from the river. Stannis' jaw flexed. "Expose Tywin how?" "We lure him to King's Landing," Ned answered. "Offer negotiations outwardly generous, grant of Riverland's toll exemptions he covets. During the parley, we present proof. Contracts with cell sales, severed hand of my scout, testimonies from Bravos bankers. Then we reveal the assassination attempt. The court sees the lion unveiled. Even Pycelle's blind loyalty cannot shield him. Damn. And if Tywin refuses the summons?" Connington asked. "Then his refusal is admission. Rhaegar rides to rally the realm under the banner of peace, while Stannis blocks the gullet. Tywin's armies starve on their march." Rhaegar weighed options, eyes shadowed. "It risks much." "So does every breath now," Ned said. "Better risk toward peace than drift into fire." They parted before cockcrow. Ned watched their silhouettes disappear, feeling both lighter and flayed raw. He had stepped beyond hand's duty into the realm of plots and counterplots, where honor alone could not navigate. Yet in his heart he held a single beacon. Children laughing at Winterfell, a kingdom where they might grow without ash in their lungs. Letters flew forth again, ravens blackening dawn skies. One bore the prince's seal to Tywin, gilded and courteous. Another to Jon Arryn, succinct but urgent. A third to Robert, blunt as a warhammer. "Keep the Stormlands ready." In Winterfell, Catelyn read Ned's coded missive at her sewing table, while Robb practiced swordplay below. She pressed knuckles to lips, fighting tears. Then, she summoned Sir Roderick, ordered extra stores laid in, and ravens prepared to White Harbor. War might not reach the north soon, but winter always rode fast upon war's heels. At Casterly Rock, Tywin received Rhaegar's summons. He stroked his jaw, eyes analyzing every courteous flourish. Beside him young Jaime, newly sworn to the Kingsguard but still at the Rock on short leave, shifted uneasily. "Will you go, father?" the golden-haired son asked. Tywin looked toward the sea, rolling dark against crimson dusk. "I will let the realm believe I go," he murmured. "Make ready the host," quietly. The lion prepared to leap even as the wolf set snares. The dragon weighed kin against crown, and the stag pawed the ground in distant storms. In King's Landing, summer heat broke at last, giving way to sharp northern wind that cut through thin cloaks. Small folk whispered that winter neared. that white ravens would soon fly from the citadel. Ned stood atop the battlement above the mudgate one evening, breath fogging. He remembered his father's words, "When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives." He prayed quietly then, not to old gods nor new, but to the bruised horizon itself, that the pack, scattered now across 7 kingdoms, would find a way to stand together before the winds became a tempest of fire and blood. Ananki. SQL. Night fell over King's Landing like a black silk shroud sluiced onto smoldering coals. The red keep's towers stabbed into a moonless sky, their silhouettes jagged against distant flickers of stormlight far out over the bay. From the high parapet of Maegor's Holdfast, Eddard Stark watched the ink-dark water churn around the galleys moored at the quay, heard the muted creak of ropes and the steady clank of oarlocks as harbor hands readied Stannis Baratheon's flagship Fury for yet another training patrol. The lie was paper-thin. Every sailor in the city knew the royal fleet drilled for war. But open talk of war remained forbidden, so the men called it training and let the night swallow the word's bitter edge. Ned pressed gloved hands to the cold merlon in front of him, feeling granite bite through leather until the ache steadied his thoughts. Behind him, the yard lamps made orange puddles on slick flagstones. Shadows of patrolling guards stretched and shrank in torchlight, long and thin as spears amid the rain dark. Somewhere, a hammer rang dully. Late work at the royal armory. Steel flattened beneath tireless strikes. Iron for an iron winter, Ned thought. A door opened at his back, soft on its hinges. Barristan Selmy stepped out, cloak billowing like torn parchment. He halted beside Ned, silent a moment to drink the briny wind. "Another raven from River Run," Barristan said at length. "Lord Hoster pledges to attend the tourney next spring. 70 retainers only." "Only," Ned echoed with tired humor. "Enough retainers to man 3 breaches or seize a gate." The old knight inclined his head. "It is a blade held politely by the hilt, but a blade still." Ned did not answer. His eyes tracked a single lantern that bobbed atop a skiff rowing upriver toward the mudgate, black water swallowing its halo with every rolling swell. At last he said, "Tomorrow we confront the small council about Tywin's contracts. If Pycelle sides with the lion, he will slow us. Chelstead will quiver. Varys will counsel patience. The king," he exhaled. "The king may decide wildfire is simpler than talk." "I will sit beside you," Barristan said. "If my white cloak still bears any weight with his grace, he will hear the words. How he answers them." He left the sentence unfinished. But Ned understood. Aerys' answers had become as unpredictable as wildfire's own tongues, sometimes licking, sometimes devouring. They parted at the stair. As Ned descended into the holdfast's belly, torches hissed in iron brackets, smoke curling like ghostly ropes. His chamber lay 2 landings down. He entered quietly, shrugging off damp cloak. On the heavy oaken desk waited a sealed scroll stamped with a sigil he did not know, a mailed fist clutching 3 arrows. He slit the dark wax with the dirk at his belt. The letter within bore a careful hand. "My lord hand, I am called Sir Gerald Faring, late of the Stepstones. I write on behalf of the Golden Jackals, now sailing under contract, purchased by Casterly Rock. Know this, Tywin Lannister intends to land 2,000 crossbowmen at Crackclaw Point by first thaw. They will carve a road through the Crown Lands, opening a second path to King's Landing while his western host marches through the Riverlands. If you would parley, a lone rider bearing a plain white banner may find me 4 leagues north of Maidenpool at the ruined Sept on the 7th day of the moon. Come or do not. My captain has other buyers for our loyalty." 7 hells, Ned thought. A mercenary dangling a leash before 2 masters. But information could be worth any price that kept wildfire from children's lungs. He burned the letter and ground the wax into the cinders, then drafted 3 short messages. 1 for Stannis on Dragonstone, double your patrols north of the Blackwater. Expect cell sails in the bay. 1 for Lord Rosby, who commanded a modest garrison along the King's Road. Clear watchtowers. Question riders send hourly beacons if you sight lions or jackals. And one for Rhaegar. Meet me at the Sept of... He sealed each parchment and rang for the night rookery keeper, a thin boy with lantern eyes. Only after the scroll tubes vanished into darkness did Ned allow himself the discomfort of fatigue. He collapsed into a chair, boots still muddy. A faint tremor danced in his fingertips, a lyre of foreboding he could neither crush nor ignore. Sleep, when it came, was shallow and splintered. He dreamed of gray direwolves pacing through wildfire-lit woods, of Lyanna's hand slipping from his grasp, fingers leaving smears of frost on his skin, of a boy with a crown of snow calling him father, while flames rose along the horizon. Dawn's bell drove the visions off, but dread remained, coiled in his gut like a waiting adder. The small council gathered in the Tower of the Hand that morning by Ned's demand, away from Aerys's throne room and the pyromancer's hungry glares. Barristan arrived first, armored in enameled white plate. Next came Varys, perfumed and powder-smooth. Pycelle waddled in, beard quivering. Chelstead followed, clutching scrolls of copper-inked ledgers. Last strode Rhaegar himself, silver hair shining, a prince's gravity in every measured step. "His grace will not attend," Rhaegar announced, voice level. "He prays with his alchemists." Ned nodded. "Then we begin." When all were seated, Pycelle breathing like a bellows, Varys fanning languidly, Ned laid 3 objects upon the table. The scorched ring taken from the severed hand, a copy of the Volantine contract for the Golden Jackals, and a salt-stained chart of Crackclaw Point showing proposed landing sites marked in red wax. "Evidence enough of Lord Tywin's treason," Ned said, letting silence stretch until even Chelstead's ledger rustle ceased. "He hires cell sails to march on the Crown lands. He murders royal scouts. He undermines city peace with foreign coin." He lifted the ring between finger and thumb. Torchlight caught flecks of dried blood in its sigil. This belonged to Langley Castle of Winterfell. His hand now rots somewhere in Lannisport. Pycelle cleared his throat, puffing outrage. "All allegations. This council has no witness, no sworn confession, only ragged scraps and hearsay." Ned fixed him with granite eyes. "Then, swear me under the faith. I will bring the severed hand itself for you to taste, if you doubt the blood upon it." Chelstead swallowed. "Suppose this is true. What remedy do you propose?" "Not summon Lord Tywin to answer the charges before the full court," Ned replied. "We deliver this evidence publicly. If he bends the knee, we spare bloodshed. If not, the great council Rhaegar desires will have all it needs to act." Varys closed his fan. "You invite the lion into our den, my lord. A cornered lion may strike rather than bow." "Better he strike where his treason stands naked," Barristan countered, voice steel beneath velvet. "Stannis' fleet guards the seaward approaches. The crownlands are raised. Tywin will face swords on every road." "Napermensman." Pycelle shifted, beard rustling. "His grace will never countenance such insolence toward the Lord of Casterly Rock." Rhaegar spoke at last, calm yet unyielding. "My father will accept what I tell him to accept, if we present it as chance to demonstrate his power. He summons Tywin. Tywin kneels. The realm praises the king's justice. If Tywin refuses, his defiance justifies measures we have long delayed." The prince's gaze met Ned's. Both knew those measures might include removing Aerys himself, but that step had to come from lords, not from a northern wolf alone. Chelstead dabbed sweat. "What of the wildfire?" "I have rosters of every pyromancer and jarsight," Ned lied smoothly. In truth, his list was partial, but he would not admit ignorance before Varys. "The alchemists answer to me on the king's command." Partly true. Aerys's last threat confirmed he wanted Ned bound to the wildfire scheme, a chain clamped tight. Let them all believe the hand held that chain, not the king. After fierce debate, they drafted a parchment, naming Tywin's summons. It bore both the king's great seal, applied by Rhaegar's hand with the royal stamp, and Ned's own direwolf. Varys promised his swiftest raven would depart by dusk, wings slick with urgency. When the council ended, Rhaegar lingered. He spoke softly. "Meet me tonight at the Sept's western crypt, the hour of the owl. Bring no guard save one man you trust." Ned nodded, though a coil of ice tightened about his spine. Secrets stacked upon secrets until he feared the tower might collapse under their weight. Hours later he rode the city with Jory. They passed shuttered shops whose windows bore lion-painted sigils, crownlanders bought by Lannister gold, silversmiths, vintners, laundries. Ned marked each for later quiet questioning. At a riverside tannery, he stepped inside to the stink of lime pits. The master tanner admitted selling toughened hides for travel packs to a man bearing a crimson sash. Enough leather for 500 packs, all bound for Casterly rock wagons. Supplies for a march, no doubt. That solidified Ned's resolve. Tywin no longer crawled, he advanced. They returned to the keep by dusk. Aerys's voice rang down corridors in shrill laughter. Rumors told he had ordered a baker's fingernails torn out for undersalting bread. Ned found himself hoping Tywin would hurry, but cursed the thought the instant it formed. No victory lay in lion or dragon devouring the realm. Night bled down the sky. Lanterns guttered in the Sept of Baelor, their glow trapping motes of dust like flies in amber. Ned approached the western crypt entrance alone save Jory, who waited in the gallery above with bow strung. The crypt smelled of deep stone and candle grease. Rhaegar stood amid the tombs, silver hair stark against black marble. Beside him, lantern raised, waited a woman cloaked in charcoal gray, face cowled. Ned's sword hand twitched. The prince spoke. "Lord Stark, this is Septa Lemore. She serves the faith in the city's poorest circles. More importantly, she sees beyond color of banners. Speak freely before her." Ned inclined his head. "Your Grace." Rhaegar unfolded a parchment, a different seal. 3 trout of river run around a direwolf head. Ned's breath caught. He had not known Hoster Tully used such a hybrid device. "Lord Hoster's reply," Rhaegar said. "He will back the council if Tywin is proven traitor, but only if Robert Baratheon signs the same pledge." Ned grimaced. "Robert trusts his hammer above parchment. Then you must win him, as you once did in the Eyrie." Rhaegar handed the parchment to the Septa, who tucked it inside her sleeve. "She leaves at dawn by river sloop, heading north with my letters. If Robert gives his word, Storm's End stands with us." Ned considered. Robert's hatred of Targaryens burned hot, but his hatred of Lannisters smoldered deep, banked by memories of courtly slights. If Tywin became the foe, Robert might well lend aid. "I'll add my own letter," Ned said. "Robert will listen, if only to curse me between swallows of ale." They spoke an hour of strategy. Septa Lemore listened, sometimes murmuring a soft prayer. Ned questioned her presence. She offered quiet insight on smallfolk temperament. If wildfire consumed the city, rebellion would ignite across the realm regardless of which banners flew over castles. Her words reminded Ned of Glover's smallfolk grumbling when harvest failed, how discontent moved like disease. He thanked her for candor. As they departed, Rhaegar clasped Ned's forearm. "When Tywin comes, guard your heart. He will aim tales of your sister against you." Ned stiffened, but nodded. The prince's eyes held sorrow. His story intertwined with Lyanna's death rumors. Yet tonight Ned could not untangle that knot. War's rope tightened too swiftly. Dawn's first light found Ned at his desk, quill scrawling urgent lines. "Robert, old friend, put by your anger for one season, and you may yet plant peace upon this field. Tywin means to topple dragon and stag alike. Come to King's Landing with small escort. No more than 20, and stand witness when the council convenes. We will prove the lion a traitor in open court. Afterward, you may judge me as you will, but judge with eyes unclouded by ale or vengeance." He sealed the message and delivered it to Septa Lemore's sloop personally, watching as oars dipped into green water under the dawn mist. 4 days passed with tension coiling tighter. Aerys grew scarce, hidden with alchemists. Rumors whispered he rubbed wildfire into his skin to feel its tingle. Rhaegar oversaw garrison drills, his expression a marble mask. Barristan doubled the hand's guard. Even Varys walked with 2 spearmen trailing at discreet distance. The air itself seemed sharper, as though every breath risked cutting lungs. On the fifth morning, a horn sounded from the city wall. Riders on the King's Road. Ned ascended the tower's outer rampart, spyglass trained beyond the mud-brown fields. A dust plume approached, scarlet and gold banners bright in low sun. Not Tywin's full host, only advance party. 300 knights, 500 men-at-arms, bristling like a spear point. At their head rode Kevan Lannister, cloak flowing, helm crested with golden mane. The lion had answered the summons. Ned ordered gates opened under heavy guard. Trumpets blared, hooves clattered on cobbles. Small folk pressed for glimpses of lordly splendor. Some spat, others begged coppers from well-groomed squires who tossed coins with mocking smiles. Kevan Lannister dismounted beneath the Red Keep's shadow and removed helm. His graying hair glinted like tarnished crown. Eyes flinty, he bowed to Barristan, who greeted him with polished courtesy. "My brother follows within a sennight," Kevan announced. "He brings escort, wagons of grain for city relief, and the West's pledged tribute of coin." His gaze slid to Ned standing behind. "Lord Stark. The North sends wolves to sniff at lions' heels, I see." "The North guards the realm," Ned replied, voice stone flat. Kevan smiled politely. "May we all guard it together." Ned offered guest rights, bread and salt, though tradition sat uneasy between them. Kevan accepted, wiping crumbs from gauntlet. Ned caught a flicker of calculation in the man's eyes. Host within the gates, yet hardly helpless. They assigned Lannister men quarters in Maegor's outer stables, secure, away from wildfire corridors. That evening Ned convened a pre-council in his solar. Rhaegar, Barristan, Varys. They expected Pycelle and Chelsted would lean sympathetic to Lannisters. Thus Barristan would speak first, presenting breach of oaths. Varys second with sell contracts. Ned last with the severed hand. Rhaegar would preside as royal voice, since Aerys still sequestered. And then, they prayed. Proof would bind lords behind the realm before swords drew. Night deepened. Ned dismissed guards beyond the chamber door save Jory. He poured watered wine to steady nerves and studied a map of city tunnels one last time. A flick at the corner of his vision, candle guttered. He looked up. Shadow in window. Glass shattered inward with a pop. A quarrel whistled, thudded into the cedar beam by his head. Shards sprayed desk. Ned rolled aside, drawing Ice's shorter traveling companion, the longsword Frostbite. Outside corridor, Jory shouted. Steel clanged, muffled, then silence. Ned crept to window. Narrow arrow slit high over sheer drop. A rope dangled. Assassin must have climbed or swung from parapet archway. He kicked the rope free. It snaked down, snapping taut. He found Jory slumped against wall, crossbow bolt through shoulder. "Just a scratch," Jory gritted. Footsteps clattered below. Assailant fleeing. Ned left Jory in Harwin's care and gave chase down spiral stairs, cloak streaming. The attacker knew the keep, turns chosen to avoid main hall. Ned followed echoes, his boots thunder on stone. They burst into the kitchen yard. Moonlight revealed a hooded figure, vaulting barrels. Ned hurled his dirk, the blade clipped cloth. The man stumbled, regained balance, sprinted toward gate arch where two shapes awaited. One held reins of a black horse. Ned pursued, lungs aflame. The gate guard lay unconscious or dead. The hooded man mounted, allies spurred away. Ned reached the arch as hooves faded. He knelt by the fallen guard, alive but stunned. Bolt wound in breast, but shallow. The assassin spared crown men. Target was Ned alone. Below his hand he found a sigil stitched on dropped cloak corner. Sharpened sunburst. House Myatt, a Lannister bannerman. Evidence perhaps deliberately planted, yet weighty. At dawn he stood beside Jory's sickbed, shoulder bandaged. "You live," Ned said. Relief threading voice. "Takes more'n a lion rat to kill a castle," Jory rasped, managing grin. Ned clasped his forearm. "Rest. You'll stand with me soon." He left, bearing the cloak fragment. Aerys might see shadows of treason. Better he see this cloth than swallow Tywin's honeyed oath. The council assembled mid-morning in the throne room, by Aerys's sudden decree. The king appeared at last, eyes red-rimmed, skin gleaming with oily perspiration. He wore scaled armor of blackened steel, each scale etched with flames. Ned's heart sank. Wildfire dreams fueled paranoia again. Lannister entourage entered in shimmering column. Kevan first, Sir Jaime beside him in Kingsguard white. Tywin's seat left conspicuously empty. Courtiers buzzed like flies. Aerys' thin voice sliced the hush. "We gather to greet my old friend Tywin Lannister. Yet he tarries, sends envoys in his stead. Why, Lord Kevan? Does your brother's pride weigh heavier than his loyalty?" Kevan bowed. "His Grace knows Lord Tywin prepares generous tribute wagons and marched at haste. But storms and swollen rivers delayed." "Storms," Aerys mocked. "Dragonfire burns through storms." Ned stepped forward. "Your Grace, before Lord Tywin arrives, the Hand must present urgent evidence." He unfurled the Volantene contract, magnified on parchment for all to see. "These sell sails march under Lannister coin toward Crackclaw Point." Gasps rippled. Pycelle squinted, adjusting spectacles. Varys watched faces with serpent calm. Kevan spoke smoothly. "Forgeries concocted to sully a great house." Barristan produced the severed hand's ring, held aloft. Murmurs grew louder. Kevan's composure flickered. "War breeds bandits. No proof this murder bears lion's claw." Ned raised the cloak fragment. "An assassin struck in my chambers hours past. He left this." He displayed the sigil. Kevan opened mouth, then closed. Jaime shifted, golden head tilting with vague interest. Aerys leaned forward, eyes wild. "Traitors. Lions hunting wolves in my den." He laughed abruptly, the sound scraping like rusted hinges. "Bring the pyromancers. We shall give Old Town's black cells new warmth." Kevan blanched. "Your Grace, my house is loyal. My brother will kneel at your throne." "He will kneel or roast." Aerys' voice rose to shrill pitch. "Let every lord see what fate awaits the faithless." At that, a trumpet sounded outside. 3 clear notes. Doors swung open. Tywin Lannister strode in, cloak swirling like liquid gold. Behind him marched lines of knights, their crimson cloaks foreign splendor amidst the Red Keep's gloom. The hall held its breath as the lion approached the Iron Throne. Tywin stopped 9 paces away, close enough to see blade points snarling above Aerys' head, far enough to draw steel if needed. He knelt. The rustle of his cloak echoed like falling sand. "Your Grace," he said, voice lion low, "I come at your command." Casterly Rock stands ever loyal to its king. Ned watched Aerys' fingers flex upon throne arm. Madness balanced on a knife. The king hissed, "Do you deny hiring sell sails to carve my lands?" Tywin did not blink. "I deny nothing without proof, and I see none untainted by wolf prints." Rhaegar spoke, breaking silence. "Then swear beneath the 7. Here, now. Swear you hired no company, ordered no blade turned against the hand or the crown." Tywin's green eyes flickered to the 7-pointed star carved above the dais. Long seconds bled. "I will swear," he said at last. He stood, drew dagger, sliced his palm. Blood welled. He pressed it to the marble at the throne's foot. The gesture was ancient Riverland's custom, oath sealed in blood. "By the 7 and by my blood, I ordered no hand raised against the king's peace." Murmurs roiled. Ned felt uncertainty stir. Perhaps Selsails acted on some lesser lord's command, or Tywin shielded himself with half-truth. Aerys' lip curled. Words. "Wolves show claws, lions hide them." He gestured sharply. Pyromancer acolyte stepped forward bearing a single green glass jar uncorked, flame dancing on its mouth. The hall recoiled from its sick glow. "Pour this upon his hand," Aerys commanded. "If he be false, fire will feast. If he is true, the 7 will bar the flame." Horror rippled. Even Jaime's mask cracked. Kevan started forward, caught himself. Tywin's jaw tightened, but he did not move. The pyromancer advanced, tilt of jar threatening spill. In that instant, Ned knew madness would rule and steel spoke first. He stepped between jar and lion. "Your Grace, the hand forbids this. Trial by flame lies outside our laws. You risk breaking the compact that binds crown and faith. Gasps. Go. Aerys's eyes bulged. You forbid your king? Ned's voice carried across pillars. I serve justice. This is cruelty. Aerys shrieked. Traitor! He flung an arm. Guards surged. Barristan drew, planting white sword across Ned's chest. Stand back. He warned both gold cloaks and Lannisters. Tension crackled. Tywin's chuckle cut through. Behold the realm, held hostage by madness. He turned, addressing nobles. I did not hire sell-sails, but I will now, and more, if only to save Westeros from Wildfire's shadow. Choose. Follow the stag-mad dragon, or follow reason beneath the lion's banner. Pandemonium erupted, lords shouting, courtiers fleeing. Pycelle fainted. Aerys rose, howling for fire. Rhaegar tried to reach him, but guards blocked path. Ned grabbed Rhaegar's arm. We must leave. Rally loyal men. They retreated under Barristan's protection through side door. Behind them, wildfire jar shattered on flagstone, green flames geysering. Screams followed. Down corridors they ran. Ned, Rhaegar, Barristan. Smoke seeped. Bells clanged alarm. Outside, gold cloaks clashed with Lannister men drawing swords. The city teetered on civil war's brink and heartbeats. In the Tower of the Hand, Ned shoved maps and scrolls into satchels. We ride tonight for Dragonstone, he told Barristan. Stannis controls fleet. We must secure harbor. Rhaegar shook his head. I go to Storm's End. Robert's hammer decides this. Your wife, children, Elia sails with you. His eyes flared. Keep them safe. If I die, the realm has heirs. Naaman pity. They sealed the pact with warrior's grip. Barristan would escort Elia and children to the fleet. Ned would command overland escort to the city gate, then rejoin at the royal docks. Jory, arm bound in sling, insisted on riding. The lion took a swipe, he grinned. Time to show the wolf's bite. Harwin saddled fresh horses. Within an hour, they led a column of 50 Northmen, 50 loyal crown knights, and Prince Viserys' weeping nurse clutching the boy. Princess Elia cradled young Aegon. Rhaenys clung to her mother's skirts. Smoke drifted from the Red Keep's roof. Bells tolled wildfire alarm, the great bronze tongues mourning even as city yet lived. Lannister banners already waved over the King's Gate. Kevin's riders rallied small folk to protect your homes while gold cloaks scrambled. Ned's column skirted east wall. At the mud gate, a Lannister detachment blocked path. Red cloaks, crossbows notched. Ned spurred forward, ice in hand. Stand aside, he commanded. Their captain, Sir Adam Marbrand, lowered his helm visor. Only if you yield the prince and princess. Jory laughed hoarsely. Yield? We'll send you home in a barley sack, lion. Men. Arrows loosed, shields slammed. Ned shouted charge. Steel met carnage in narrow lane. Horse screams, crossbow twanged a title. Harwin's spear pinned a Lannister through gorget. Ned's sword carved red arcs. Marbrand engaged Ned hard, blade ringing. They traded vicious blows. Ned parried, riposted, felt shoulders burn. A shout. Northmen flanked, axes hewing. The Lannister line buckled. Marbrand clenched teeth. Disengaged, signaled retreat. They fled, leaving crimson trail. Ned lost 6 men. Jory's sling tore anew, but he survived. They forced gate, lances driving city watch, who wavered but yielded at sight of direwolf banner. On the river, Stannis galleys loomed, masts bristling. Ned's party boarded fury amid cheers. Elia Targaryen sank to deck, tears streaking cheeks yet relief glowing. Barristan arrived last, blood splattered across white cloak. The king's guard is broken, he said, voice stone. Jaime Lannister cut down Lord Connington to reach the throne. I could not save Aerys, Ned swallowed. Is he dead? Crowned by sword, they say. I pray so, for his own sake. Nan. Rhaegar's fate unknown, Aerys slain, city ablaze. The war Ned hoped to prevent had begun its brutal march. He stood on Fury's deck as oars dipped, black water current pulling them toward open sea. Over his shoulder, King's Landing shimmered. Emerald flares of wildfire blooming where vats exploded, smoke columns twisting like black dragons against dawn. Bells tolled on, too many to count. Wind filled sails. Dana shouted orders. Ned wrapped cloak round Elias' trembling shoulders, eyes fixed northeast where Dragonstone's peaks speared cloud. Somewhere beyond, Robert would ride, Tywin would march, and Rhaegar would gamble crown and life on shattered promises. Ned closed fingers around the hilt of ice and whispered a vow to cold gods. He would see Winterfell's children home or die upon the last step. Thus, the hand of a murdered king sailed into storm-washed uncertainty, bearing the realm's last unburned hope while dragons, wolves, lions, and stags readied their banners under a sky already alight with the first sparks of a war that would devour the living and haunt the dead.